केस है जिसमें मतलब प्रोस्टिट्यूट हु हैड सेक्सुअल कनेक्शन विद द कंप्लाइनेंट and thereby communicated syphilis is liable under the section 269 IPC for spreading of the infection and not of causing the hurt because the interval between the act and the disease was too remote to attract the section 319 and 320 of IPC. तो इसने इन्फेक्शन को स्प्रेड किया लेकिन हर्ट नहीं कॉज किया क्योंकि इंटरवल है बिटवीन द एक्ट एंड द डिजीज वॉज टू रिमोट टू अट्रैक्ट दिस सेक्शन. थर्ड है इन्फर्मिटी. इन्फर्मिटी डिनोट करता है अनसाउंड या अनहेल्दी स्टेट बॉडी की. सेम रिमार्क्स अप्लाई करते हैं कॉजिंग इन्फर्मिटी एज टू दैट ऑफ द डिजीज बिकॉज इट इज़ समथिंग एक्टिन टू बट नॉट आइडेंटिकल विद द डिजीज. टर्म इन्फर्मिटी यूज होती है टू कन्वे एनी इनएबिलिटी ऑर्गन की टू परफॉर्म द यूजुअल फंक्शन. इट मे बी टेम्पररी या परमानेंट. A state of temporary mental impairment या hysteria या terror would constitute infirmity. For example, जैसे boy 16-year-old age का being in love with a girl gave her some sweet meats. The girl and some of her family member ate them. खा दो. And all of them were seized with violent symptom of poisoning, though none of them died. It was held that the boy was guilty of causing hurt. Next है grievous hurt, section 320. Code on the basis of gravity of physical assault has classified hurt as simple और दूसरा grievous होता है so that the accused might be awarded punishment commensurate to his guilt. This section designates 8 kind of hurt as grievous and provides the enhanced punishment in such cases. These are as follows. Emasculation. This clause is confined to males only. It means unsexing of a man or depriving him of virility. The clause was inserted to counteract the practice prevailing in women to squeeze men's testicles on the slightest provocation. Emasculation may be caused in variety of ways. It may be caused by inflicting an injury to the scrotum, as has the effect of rendering the person impotent, or to the vertebral column, leading to the failure of erection of penis. Impotency caused must be permanent. An injury to the scrotum may lead not only to emasculation, but to even death. Indeed, as remarked by Dr. Chevers, it is a form of assault which is extremely liable to prove fatal. In that case, the accused will be guilty of not only grievous hurt but of culpable homicide. Next है injury eyesight. Injuring eyesight. Such injury must have the effect of permanently depriving the injured of the use of one or both eyes. The test of gravity is permanency of the injury, which may be caused by hand, as by gouging out one's eye with the thumbnail or by poking it with a stick or the like. The injury is grievous both because it deprives a man of an organ of sight and also because it disfigures him for life. Next is causing deafness. In this respect, preceding injury is more serious than the permanent privation of hearing of either ear, which deprives a man of use of auricular organ but does not disfigure him. मतलब इसमें डिसफिगर नहीं हो रहा, बस इसमें सुनने की काबिलियत कम हो रही है. Such injury may be caused by stunning blow on the head or the ear, injuring the tympanum or other auditory nerves, thrusting a stick into the ear, or pouring some substance into the ear leading to deafness. In both these clauses, the loss of privation of sight या फिर hearing may be partial but has to be permanent. भले एक कान की हुई हो पार्शियल हो लेकिन परमानेंट है. हाउएवर परमानेंट डज नॉट मीन दैट इट शुड बी इनक्योरेबल. फॉर इंस्टेंस लॉस ऑफ साइट जो है जो होती है ड्यू टू द कॉर्नियल ओपेसिटी रिजल्टिंग फ्रॉम इंजरी टू द कॉर्निया, वो इलाज उसका हो सकता है क्योरेबल है बाय कॉर्नियोप्लास्टी. बट बीइंग कॉर्नियोप्लास्टी से हो सकता है बट बीइंग परमानेंट बाय इटसेल्फ कॉन्स्टिट्यूट अ ग्रीवियस हर्ट and chances of its treating by corneoplasty do not lower its gravity for this purpose. Next is privation of any member or joint. This clause and its next refer to the old offense of mayhem, which Hawkins defined to be violently depriving a man of the use of such of his member as may render him less able in fighting. This offense was in England at one time visited with the penalty of death, and by ancient law the penalty section for the same crime was membrum pro membro, that is an eye for eye and a tooth for tooth. The punishment provided by the code depend upon the nature of the member or joint lost, because the same penalty cannot be attached to the mutilation of arm as to the loss of one's little finger. Term member means nothing more than an organ or a limb. Therefore, it includes both eyes, ears, nostrils, mouth, hands, feet, etc. A joint means a place where two or more bones and the muscles join. Their privation must involve such injury as makes them permanently stiff so that they are unable to perform the normal function assigned to them in human physiology. Next, a permanent impairing powers of any member or joint. Deprivation of a limb or joint involve करता है lifelong crippling with its attendant defenselessness and misery. This clause sections the same policy of law in making it grievous hurt to permanently impair the use of any limb or joint without causing its total destruction. Indeed, the mere retention of a limb when it cannot be put to use for which it was created is as great a hardship as if it had been lost by amputation or otherwise. Any permanent decrease in the utility would constitute a grievous hurt. For example, just a formation of stricture during the burns, corrosives, or any other injury resulting in the permanent impairment of power, function of the concerned organ or tissue, damaging of some tendons due to blunt or sharp force injury leading to permanent impairment of power, function of the concerned muscle or joint. A communication from this professor is quite illuminating. The victim, a male of about 25 years, allegedly received a sharp force injury during an assault. The injuries were: number 1, incised wound 5.0 centimeter on the left parieto-occipital region of the head, an incised wound 1 centimeter on the back of the right forearm, back पे, and number 3, an incised wound on the front of the right thumb, bone deep. The doctor on the duty who had conducted the medical legal examination, after going through an X-ray reports, declared the injuries as simple, casually going by the notion that if there was no bone injury, it is not grievous, and not contemplating that other relevant clause of the grievous hurt to need exclusion in given scenario. However, the victim constantly complained of pain and restricted movement of the right thumb. He consequently requested the head of the institution to look into the matter. An inquiry was ordered, and the injury numbered 3, was declared as grievous, as it had resulted in cutting of the tendon of the flexor pollicis longus. And in the opinion of the orthopedic surgeon who had repaired the tendon, it amounted to permanent impairment of the power or function of the thumb, and the victim would be unable to hold things in the thumb and finger and to write. तो ये परमानेंट इम्पेयरमेंट हो गया. नेक्स्ट है परमानेंट डिसफिगरेशन हो जाए हेड की या फेस की. द वर्ड डिसफिगर मस्ट बी डिस्टिंग्विश फ्रॉम द वर्ड डिसेबल. Disfigure means to inflict on a man some external injury that does not weaken him, but to disable means to incapacitate him permanently. Such disfigurement may be caused by lopping off a man's ear or nose, in which case there would be sufficient disfigurement without consequential disability, so as to constitute a grievous hurt under this clause. Photograph A and B showing chopped off left pinna and the separately lying severed pinna. ये बाहर रखा हुआ है respectively. The victim, aged about 30 years, landed into scuffle with his friend while both were intoxicated by alcohol or any other means and suffered this injury. A nasty gash on a face leaving a permanent scar would be another instance of this type of injury. An injury may be both disfigure and disable a person, example gouging or out an eye. In that case, the offense will be the same, namely a grievous hurt, though the injury would then fall both under this clause and clause number 2. नेक्स्ट है फ्रैक्चर या डिसलोकेशन बोन की या टूथ की. फ्रैक्चर या डिसलोकेशन बोन की या टूथ की अनदर टाइप ऑफ ग्रीवियस हर्ट है जो कि मे या मे नॉट बी अटेंडेड विद परमानेंट डिसेबिलिटी. जैसे कि बोन दो फ्रैक्चर्ड या डिसलोकेटेड मे रीजॉइन और बी सेट एंड लीव लिटल और नो ट्रेस बिहाइंड ऑफ इट्स फ्रैक्चर और डिसलोकेशन. But the injury is esteemed grievous on the account of intense pain and disability it causes to the sufferer. The same disability may be attached to the dislocation or fracture of a tooth. There is also the same case. Fracture is not defined in the Indian Penal Code, but it is beyond the plea of controversy. If there is a break by cutting or splintering of a bone, or there is a rupture of fissure in it, it would amount to a fracture within the meaning of CL7 of section 320 of IPC. Partial cut on the skull wall would amount to a fracture within the meaning of this clause. Usual X-ray of the part not revealing the fracture. Need for repeat X-ray in a given scenario. A middle-aged man was allegedly assaulted. About 7 p.m. he showed graze measuring on the outer aspect of right scapular region surrounding reddish bruise. On clinical examination, no body deformity, no abnormal mobility, etc. were noted. Usual X-ray revealed absence fracture. All injuries, including this, were declared as simple. However, the victim continued complaining of pain and restricted movements on the right shoulder. Therefore, the victim was subjected to digital X-ray which showed the fracture of acromion process of the right scapula. And then the supplementary report opinion was extended declaring the injury was grievous. क्योंकि उसके acromion process पे इंजरी हो गई थी इसलिए ये इंजरी ग्रीवियस हुई. पेन उसको ज़्यादा, वैसे तो कोई फ्रैक्चर नहीं मिला, सिंपल एब्सेंस ऑफ फ्रैक्चर था, लेकिन जब फर्दर डिजिटल एक्सरे किया तो उसके एक्रोमियन प्रोसेस में इंजरी मिली. इट मीन्स इट इज़ अ ग्रीवियस हर्ट. नेक्स्ट है हर्ट इंडेंजरिंग द लाइफ और कॉजिंग सीवियर पेन or refraining from the ordinary pursuits. There is nothing corresponding to this clause in the English law and admitted by the framer that they borrowed this from the French Penal Code. Period of 20 days fixed by them for making the injury grievous was, of course, arbitrarily, but any period fixed would have been the same. The clause encompasses provisions for cases not only where the violence has been used but also for the cases where the hurt has been caused without any assault, as by administration of drugs, setting of traps, digging of pits, falls, etc. The clause refers to 3 classes of injuries which designates grievous, namely those that endanger life, those that cause severe bodily pain for 20 days, those that disable the sufferer from following his ordinary pursuits for 20 days, मतलब daily life work. Endangering life. It refers to the injuries that endanger the life. The question is one of the degree, and it must be ascertained in each case to what extent the hurt bears proximate relation to the risk of life. Ordinarily, it is true that injuries inflicted on a vital part of the body, such as head, chest, etc., tend to endanger life. The line between the culpable homicide not amounting to murder and the grievous hurt is very thin and subtle one. In one case, the injuries must be such as are likely to cause death, and in other, the injuries must be such as endangering life. दो सिचुएशन हो सकती हैं. A dangerous injury is one that poses imminent danger to life, either by involvement of important organ, structure, or extensive area of the body. The word imminent implies a danger that is impending. The dangerous injury is one which may prove fatal in the absence of surgical aid. यानी अगर सर्जिकल एड ना हो तो वो फैटल हो सकती है. May not be adhered to literally. Contusion, laceration of the brain stem may prove fatal, notwithstanding the surgical aid. For declaring the injury dangerous to life, the doctor may take into consideration the nature and extent of injury, the kind of weapon used, the part of the body struck, and the condition of the patient or victim, including the nature and extent of medication during the hospital stay, if any. Next, causing severe bodily pain. Severe bodily pain में देखें, an injury that is dangerous to life would necessarily cause severe bodily pain unless death supervenes instantaneously. But an injury may cause such pain and yet be not dangerous to life. ऐसा भी हो सकता है कि इतना ही ज़्यादा पेन हो, कोई ऐसी इंजरी हो लेकिन उसमें डेथ ना हो, यानी डेंजरस टू लाइफ ना हो, या हो भी सकती है. तो दो सिचुएशंस हैं. नेक्स्ट है डिसेबलिंग द सफरर फ्रॉम फॉलोइंग ऑर्डिनरी परस्यूट्स. द टेस्ट फॉर grievousness is the sufferer's inability to attend to his ordinary duties for a period of 20 days. 20 दिन तक वो अपने नॉर्मल रूटीन के काम नहीं कर सक रहा. So this clause necessarily involved many elements of the uncertainty, but here again to prevent the misapplication in case of feigned inability, यानी झूठ मूठ की inability वो जाहिर करे, regard must be paid to the nature and severity of the injury as well as the probability of disability it was likely to cause. तो हमें nature और severity of injury पे भी गौर करना होगा कि मतलब कोई ड्रामा तो नहीं रचाया जा रहा. The mere fact that the sufferer did not attend to his duty for a statutory period or that he remained in a hospital for that period is no indication of his inability. As was observed in the Mumbai case, an injured man may be quite capable of following his ordinary pursuits long before 20 days are over, and yet, for the sake of permanent recovery or greater ease or comfort, be willing to remain as convalescent in the hospital, especially if he is fed at a public expense. यानी पब्लिक के खर्चे में उसको खिलाया जा रहा है तो वो हॉस्पिटल में दाखिल रह रहा है, जबकि वो काम करने के लायक भी है. तो ये ड्रामा है पूरा. The law requires that the injured person should, during the space of 20 days, be in severe bodily pain or unable to follow his ordinary pursuits. It is not correct to say that these things can be established only on medical evidence and not by other evidence. The medical evidence may be more reliable, but it is not legally necessary. ज़रूरी नहीं कि उसके लिए medical evidence ही होना चाहिए. वो reliable तो है लेकिन वो legally ज़रूरी नहीं है. Assault section 351 पढ़ते हैं. कोई भी जो बनाए कोई ऐसा gesture या preparation intending to, knowing it to be likely that such a gesture या preparation will cause any person present to apprehend that he would make that gesture or preparation is about to use criminal force to that person is said to commit an assault. मतलब सामने वाला कोई ऐसा जेस्चर दे जिससे सामने वाले को ऐसा लगे कि ये कोई क्रिमिनल फोर्स भी यूज़ कर सकता है, ऐसा जेस्चर हो तो इट इज़ असॉल्ट. एक्सप्लेनेशन देखिए. mere words do not amount to an assault, but the words which a person uses may give to his gestures or preparation such a meaning as may make those gestures and preparation amount to an assault. Assault and battery distinguished. Betray, I think. An assault is a threat by one to the unlawful force against another. But a mere threat, not in the slightest degree executed, or acts or gestures done under such circumstances or at such a distance that the threat cannot possibly be carried out, does not amount to an assault. A betray includes touching a person and laying hold on his clothes in an angry, revengeful, rude, insolent, or hostile manner. Even an act such as striking a horse on which a man is riding so that he is thrown off will amount to betray. A threat to throw boiling water on a man amounts to an assault, and when it touches his body, it amounts to betray. कि मैं गर्म पानी घोलता हुआ सामने वाले को फेंकूंगी, मैं उसको डराऊँ, थ्रेट दूँ, तो ये है असॉल्ट. लेकिन जब वो उसको बॉडी को टच कर जाएगा और मैंने थ्रो कर दिया है तो ये है बैटरी. इन दोनों में ये फ़र्क है. वो डराना है, धमकाना है, थ्रेटन करना है, जेस्चर देना है, जबकि वो एक्शन है. Assault or criminal force to a woman with intent to outrage her modesty. Section 354. Whoever assaults or uses criminal force against any woman, intending to outrage or knowing it to be likely that he will thereby outrage her modesty, shall be punished with imprisonment of either description for a term that may extend to 2 years or with fine or both. Woman's modesty. What constitutes an outrage to a female's modesty is nowhere defined. This will depend upon the fact and circumstances of each case and according to the moral, social, and legal ethos and traditions of the country and the race to which the woman belongs. Thus, assault can be committed on any woman, irrespective of her age. Decency means propriety of behavior, avoidance of obscene language and gestures, and of undue exposure. The word outrage means gross infringement of decency. Morality, something that violates the feeling or the priorities, proprieties, dangerous display of passion, etc. In the state of Punjab versus Major Singh, the question arose whether a female child of 7.5 months could be said to be possessed of modesty that could be outraged. In answering this question, the Supreme Court observed, when any act done to or in the absence of a woman, in the presence of a woman, is clearly suggestive of sex according to the common notions of mankind, that must fall within the mischief of 354 IPC. Needless to say, the common notions of mankind referred to by the learned judge have to be gauged by contemporary social standards. Next is adultery, section 497. Whoever has sexual intercourse with a person who is and whom he knows or has reason to believe to be the wife of another man would, without the consent or convenience of that man, such sexual intercourse not amounting to the offense of rape is the offense of adultery, and the guilty shall be punished with imprisonment of either the description for a term that may extend to 5 years, or with the fine, or with both. In such cases, the wife shall not be punishable as an abettor. Next है enticing or taking away or detaining with criminal intent a married woman. Section 498. Whoever take or entices away any woman who is and whom he knows or has reason to believe to be the wife of another man from the man or from any person having the care of her on behalf of that man, with intent that she may have illicit intercourse with any person, or conceals or detains with that intent any such woman, shall be punished with imprisonment of either description from a term that makes it 2 years, or with fine, or both. This section deals with the offense of criminal employment. Elopement. The provision of section like those of 497 are intended to protect the right of husband over his wife. The section requires following ingredient: taking or enticing away or concealing or detaining the wife of another man from that man or from any other person having care of her on behalf of that man. Knowledge or reason to believe that she is the wife of another man. Such taking, concealing, or detaining must be with the intent that she may have illicit intercourse with any person. Use of physical force is not an ingredient of the offense. See the chapter thermal death. नेक्स्ट है क्रिमिनल इंटिमिडेशन, मतलब फ्राइटन करना या डराना, टेरिफाई करना. सेक्शन 503. Whoever threatens another with an injury, any injury to his person, reputation or property, or to the person or reputation of anyone in whom that person is interested, with intent to cause alarm to that person or to cause that person to do any act that he is not legally bound to do, or to omit to do any act that that person is legally entitled to do, as the means of avoiding the execution of such threat, commits criminal intimidation. इसकी explanation देखें. A threat to injure the reputation of any deceased person in whom the person threatened is interested in within this section. Section 503, 510 of the code deal with the criminal intimidation, insult and annoyance. This section is following essential: threatening a person with any injury to his person, reputation or property, or to the person or reputation of anyone in whom the person is interested. Threat must be with intent to cause alarm to that person, or to cause that person to do any act that he is not legally bound to do, as the means of avoiding the execution of threat, or to cause that person to omit to do any act that the person is legally entitled to do, as the means of avoiding the execution of such threat. Next, a word, gesture या act intended to insult the modesty of a woman. Section 509. Whoever intending to insult the modesty of a woman utters any word, makes any sound or gesture, or exhibits any object intending that such a word or sound shall be heard, or that such gesture or object shall be seen by such a woman, or intrudes upon the privacy of such a woman, shall be punished with simple imprisonment for a term that may extend 1 year, or with fine, or with both. While Section 375 IPC deals with the forcible ravishment of the woman, rape. Section 354 and 509 deal with the lesser act of the indecency, such as solicitation for sexual connection or to enjoy pleasurable feelings, etc. Essential component of the offense under section is intention to outrage the modesty of a woman, whereas Section 509 is the intention to insult the modesty of the woman. उनमें outrage है, उनमें insult है. The term outrage is much stronger than the term insult, and that is why the resulting punishment in the former case is extendable up to 2 years imprisonment, whereas the later case में सिर्फ 1 year. The term outrage implies gross infringement of morality या decency, gross violation of others' rights, sentiment, emotion. Term insult implies any act या speech meant to hurt the feeling of the self-respect of another, or treat a person with offensive disrespect, insolence, contempt, etc. However, both of these sections have common feature, that is, bailable nature of the offense. Reports suggest that the weakness in the law has been exploited frequently. This came to be seen when a few miscreants molested into an NRI woman near Mumbai hotel on the eve of the New Year 2008, but were granted bail soon after their arrest. The term modest implies to trouble, annoy, disturb, or vex, etc. In its ordinary connotation, it applies to any conduct that can be regarded as such a degree of harassment as constituting a criminal offense. Misconduct in public by a drunken person, section 510. Whoever in a state of intoxication appear in any public place or in any other place where it amount to a trespass and there conducts himself in such a manner as to cause annoyance to any person shall be punished with simple imprisonment for a term that may exceed to 24 hours or with fine or with both. Mere intoxication is not an offense. It is only when the person appears in a state of intoxication in public place or goes to a place where he has no right to go and cause annoyance to the people, then he become liable under this section. Attempts to commit offense, section 511. Whoever attempt to commit an offense punishable by this code with imprisonment or to cause such an offense to be committed and in such attempt does any act towards the commission of the offense shall, where no express provision is made by this code for punishment of such attempt, be punished with imprisonment of any description provided for the offense for a term that may extend to 1/2 of the imprisonment for life, or as the case may be 1/2 of the longest term of imprisonment provided for that offense, or with such fine as is provided for the offense, or with both. In every crime, there are 4 successive stages in its commission. There is intention to commit it, preparation, attempt to commit it, the actual commission of the offense. Intention is the direction, design of the conduct toward an object or aim based upon some motive. मतलब नीयत है उसकी. The law does not take notice of the intention without an external act showing some progress toward the maturing and affecting it. Preparation consists in devising or arranging means or measure necessary for the commission of an offense. Attempt is made punishable because though it fails, it creates alarm shock which itself is an injury, and the moral guilt of the offender is the same as if he had succeeded. An attempt is direct movement or action toward the commission of an offense after the preparation is made. The action fails in its object due to the circumstances beyond the control of the offender or independent of its violence. नेक्स्ट वीडियो में हम स्टार्ट करेंगे डिफरेंशिएटिंग किडनैपिंग एंड एबडक्शन. उसके बाद है क्लासिफिकेशन ऑफ इंजरीज और यहाँ पे ये चैप्टर कंप्लीट होगा.